Pursuit of Glory. Defense Introduction, Episode 4. What is the point of offense if you don't have defense? If you cannot defend yourself, who will? The greatest fighters of all time all had great defense, as if they didn't, they never would have become the greatest fighters of all time. If you cannot protect yourself, protect your army, then what army will you attack with? That is why defense is critical. I was doing judo randori with a young buck last week and could not protect my foot, and the young buck, who was a bit heavier than me, rolled over my foot whilst it was in a vertical position with his whole shin and body weight, and basically broke and dislocated 5 bones in my foot. Such is the rhythm of life. I had to get surgery and metal plates in my foot, and consequently have to, in 6 months' time, get an operation again to remove the metal plates, and then get rehabilitation back to full working order. But in the meantime, the pursuit of glory must continue, and we must adapt to the situation, as the journey cannot stop. Well, it has been stopped for 3 weeks, but now we must move. I do not say this to brag or boast or grab attention, but I just say this as it has created a huge dent in the pursuit of glory, as it is now extremely difficult for me to actively train him, as currently I only have one good foot. So, we have lost 3 weeks, but we must continue. I can't hold pads for him properly or maneuver him around the ring like I would want to, but we have to do what we can do for the moment until my foot gets better. I can't wear the bodysuit to take body punches, but we will have to improvise until my foot gets better. Now I cannot bounce around and act as an imaginary opponent when we train our drills for an estimated 7 to 9 months. So this is a huge obstacle in our path, but we have made a commitment and goal has been spoken aloud, so we must continue on the path no matter what. All things happen for a reason. We just must have PNP, patience and perseverance, to search for the answer. I will have to use what tools we have for the time being. We have set the first sparring session in about 9 weeks, so there is no time to waste. As sad as he makes me feel, we cannot cry over spilled milk, as it will eventually go off. I am basically the only one who can support my son's dream at the moment. There literally is no other way, as no one is going to commit their precious time just for him. But he is my son, so if not for me, who? So the journey continues. I will have to be creative and work out ways to compensate, as even the great Customado had Teddy Atlas and Kevin Rooney to hold pads for the young Mike Tyson. My son has only me to support him on his great endeavor, so I will have to come up with something. In the meantime, the pursuit of glory must continue, as once it has been spoken, it must be done. So we must continue to drill and build up his defense, as in boxing defense is critical, and it will determine whether or not you have a long and prosperous career in boxing. A lot of people rush into boxing and straight away start learning to punch before they even know how to defend. But it is not punching that will ensure you have a long boxing career, but rather it is defense that will determine whether or not you have a long career. Some of the greatest defensive boxers of all times, such as Sweet Pea, Pernell Whitaker, Vasily Lomachenko, and Alexander Usyk, all had over 300 amateur fights. whereas a lot of boxers who have less than a third of those fights with poor defense have noticeable brain damage as they slur their words due to the head trauma, known commonly as being punch drunk, as the boxer sounds drunk even though they haven't drank any alcohol. CTE in boxing is a real thing. So, as I have previously stated, yes, boxing is a game, but it is a very serious game with very serious consequences. So one must be sharp. This is a sad but very real symptom in boxing. So knowing this, a boxer must be adept in defense. The first thing to learn are the key areas that boxer needs to protect. These are the potential knockout zones. So I've told the boy, when you go to war, you must protect your temples on either side of your head, the solar plexus and the kidney on the left side and the spleen on your right side, the organs which are positioned just behind the bottom two ribs on each side. These are the knockout zones, and if you do not protect them, your fort will break down. That is how professional boxers break down their opponents, by hitting those targets one at a time, punch by punch, step by step. True, boxing is more like the theory of the death of 1,000 cuts, as boxing continues to punch those vulnerable targets until your opponent is broken down and cannot continue. This is what I have emphasized to the boy. Now, if one of those punches hit the right spot well enough on the knockout spot, then that is just a bonus, which is why you shouldn't aim for the knockout in boxing. You aim to box with vigor and the knockout will just come. This is the mentality of a boxer, and that's the mentality that they need to take into the square ring. Furthermore, a boxer must always prepare and train to go the distance. Never should they go out with a strategy just to knock out their opponent with one punch. That rabbit hole goes extremely deep, so we will discuss that when we get to offense. But the point is, if a boxer wants to go the distance, they must have a good defense, otherwise they won't make it. And if they do, they won't have a long career. The other targets that they need to protect are the soft spots of the face, that is the eyes and the nose, as the eyes can get cut with the leather gloves and can bleed and impair a boxer's vision, and the nose, as that can bleed and is a crucial passageway for the boxer to access oxygen. So it is a battle of attacking those vital spots. Like in a video game where you have to shoot the enemy's vulnerable spots a certain number of times before that enemy gets eliminated. Boxing is quite similar. Punches can be taken anywhere on the front side of the boxer, from the waist up, but areas such as the stomach and arms can be targets for strong punches. But in saying that, those areas can be conditioned to take punches, but the sensitive knockout spots cannot be conditioned to take punches, so must be protected. In saying that, you can train the neck muscles to absorb punches better, and you can train the jaw joints to get stronger to take punches better. You can even condition the cranium, which is the top part of the skull, which is the hardest part of your skull. The skull has broken many hands in boxing, including that of Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, and Australia's great own Jeff Fennick. And hence, I used to do Shaolin style training to condition the skull, which resulted in my head breaking a couple hands in the boxing ring, as they connected directly with the top of my skull and broke their hand through the boxing glove. But my head was totally fine, as the fist felt like it was nothing that collided with the top of my head, which was aligned with my neck and spine. just like the Pachycephalosaurus, which was renowned for using its skull as a weapon, as the bone had twice the density of normal skulls. So it was very important to know the soft spots of your body, and you need to protect those. As in the game of boxing, these are the strategic targets. Defense, like everything else in boxing, has to be drilled. We will initially start the rudimentary drills and work our way up to more advanced drills in future. Unlike other martial arts such as karate, taekwondo, judo, boxing does not have belts to reflect the level a boxer is at. So the drills are not categorized by belts, but by the level of the skills of the boxer, and is determined by the trainer. Hence, the boxer-trainer relationship is once again one of the most strongest bonds out there, as the boxer must put their full trust into the trainer. So I've chosen initially to practice defensive drills for the most basic attacks, and as time and skills progress, we will move to practice more advanced moves, but everything is a process. So we must continue to drill repetitively, as repetition is the mother of all learning. The most common attacks in boxing can come in single punches or combinations, so you must learn to initially defend against single punches, then later move on to the most common basic 2-punch combinations. Defending 3 or more punch combinations will come at a much more advanced level, so those will have to be addressed in due time. So initially we must get him to know how to parry and slip the single punches, that is the jab, straight cross and hooks to the body and head. So initially we must get him to know how to parry and slip the single punches, that is the jab, straight cross and hooks to body and head. Although it may look and feel routine and repetitive, that is how you train your body and spirit to move in that fashion. Just like a pianist has to play scales each day to exercise and drill those movements into his mind, body and spirit, this must be done over and over and over again. Then once the boxer has practiced defending the punches and gets familiar with the rhythm of the attacks, then they will be able to more accurately predict the opponent's attack and defend it. Good defense instills confidence and reduces fear and anxiety, as the only thing that one fears in the square ring is getting punched in their soft spots. To have good defense, you must be able to read your opponent to a certain level. You must study their aura and their body language. This rabbit hole goes very deep, so it will be dealt with in more depth in due time. But the key thing one must learn initially is where to place the eyes. That is, where do they have to look when facing your opponent. This is an essential detail that is hardly talked about, and this may be the case as all gyms and coaches save their most S&S techniques, that is, certain secret and sacred techniques, and are not disclosed to others, as this gives their fighter the edge. So each clan or gym or team tries to keep their most sacred techniques behind closed doors, and that is totally understandable, as everyone wants to get the edge over the others. So one of the most crucial things that is hardly discussed is, where does a fighter need to look? A lot of fighters look at the opponent's eyes, but this is dangerous, as the eyes can feint and trick you. The opponent can play possum and look weak and make you feel comfortable to come close and then launch a surprise attack. Furthermore, by looking at your opponent's eyes, you basically lose a lot of the peripheral vision of their shoulders and arms, so hence harder to read the punches. So I've told the boy, when you stare down before a boxing match, you stare at the opponent's eyes and look into their souls and intimidate their soul with your eyes. But when you are in a fight, you should be looking at your opponent's chin area, which is around the neck, as then you can see your opponent's shoulders in your peripheral vision, and consequently you will be able to estimate where their fists are, as the fists are connected to the arms, which are connected to the shoulders. Furthermore, your vision mustn't zoom into that area, but rather zoom out so you have a broad view of your opponent so that you can see their whole body. This way you'll be able to read your opponent's body language better and can move more accurately to see where their opponent's weapons are. You must test it and train it through trial and error, and with practice you'll be able to see and read your opponent's moves better. If you look at your opponent's eyes and try to read them, then you can lose track of their weapons, and when you get hit, the punches seem to come out of nowhere as you cannot see them, as they are out of range of your peripheral vision, and furthermore it is very easy and takes minimal energy to feint with the eyes. But if you're looking at the fighter's whole body, then it is harder to be feinted, as it takes a lot more energy to be feinted with the full body, and hence relatively easier to read. But the eyes are very subtle and deceptive. They can feint weakness and strength, so looking into your opponent's eyes during a fight is more of a distraction. I've told the boy, the only time you look at your opponent's eyes during a fight is to check whether he's weak or not. But even then, when the opponent is weakened, the body gives it away much easier than the eyes. To have a deep understanding of this technique, one must ponder on this deeply. Everything is initially always done slowly, and as time progresses and practice accumulates, then naturally we will speed up the drills. So since this is the beginning, we are once again drilling the basics at a slow but rhythmic speed so that he can get familiar with the movements, and the speed will pick up naturally as time progresses. Due to my injured foot, I cannot do things as well as I would like to, but he is at the very early stages, so we just have to work with what we have. But at the moment, the objective is for him to start to get familiar with the type of attacks that may come to him, and hence he will need to be able to recognize and defend against. The most commonly thrown punch in boxing is obviously the jab, so a boxer most definitely needs to know how to defend against the jab by learning how to parry it, block it, and evade it. The 1-2 or jab cross is the other most commonly used combination of the jab, but due to my disability, I have to postpone that one for another day and just work on defending what combos I can do. Either way, the objective for the boy initially is to start just getting used to seeing the punches come at him. Start getting used to reading the opponent's body language to recognize when an attack is coming. Start gauging the distance of his punches and his opponent's punches. Build confidence in blocking, parrying, and evading punches. These drills all have a purpose, as a boxer has to become familiar and get used to artillery coming his way in the form of flying fists. So it takes courage to stand in the line of fire and fight. So he must practice being calm during such hostile times. Very easy to say, but very hard to do. This comes only with experience, which only time can provide. We must always keep doing what we can, as the travelator of life stops for no one.